How does the world grapple with the escalating violence and humanitarian crisis in Gaza? The Gaza Strip, a densely populated coastal enclave, finds itself at the heart of a protracted and brutal conflict. Recent clashes have intensified, mirroring a crescendo of tension that's been building for decades. The small piece of land, home to nearly 2 million people, is now a stage for a tragedy of epic proportions. Israel's military actions are in the spotlight, with air and ground attacks continuing unabated despite growing international criticism. Accusations of human rights violations are rife, but they appear to fall on deaf ears as the conflict rages on. It's a grim tableau of smoke-filled skies and rubble-strewn streets, where uncertainty is the only constant. The human toll of these military actions is severe and steadily increasing. Casualties are mounting, with many of the victims being civilians. Among them, heartbreakingly, are children. Their young lives, full of potential, are being snuffed out, their futures stolen by a conflict they didn't choose. It's a bitter pill to swallow, a harsh reality that underlines the urgency of the situation. The infrastructure, too, is feeling the strain. Buildings, roads, and bridges have been devastated, leaving a skeletal cityscape in their wake. The destruction has exacerbated an already severe humanitarian crisis, with access to basic necessities like clean water, food, and medical care becoming increasingly difficult. This is not just about bricks and mortar, it's about lives, hopes, and dreams being shattered. It's about a population that's been left battered and bruised, their resilience tested to the limit. The situation is further complicated by the geopolitical dynamics at play. Regional actors like Egypt have their part in this narrative, with blockades and closed borders adding to the pressure. The fear of chaos spreading like wildfire and destabilizing the region is palpable. The Gaza Strip finds itself in a grim state of affairs, with no immediate resolution in sight. What part do neighboring Middle Eastern countries play in this intricate geopolitical puzzle? Let's take a moment to consider the bigger picture here. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of a wider, intricate geopolitical landscape, where regional actors, each with their own interests and fears, play significant roles. Take Egypt, for instance. As a neighbor and a regional heavyweight, Egypt has a stake in the happenings of the Gaza Strip. Egypt has maintained a blockade at the border with Gaza, limiting the movement of goods and people. It's a move that has been criticized by some, yet it's part of Egypt's strategy to maintain control and stability. While some might see this as an oppressive measure, Egypt views it as a necessary step to prevent further destabilization of the region. Moreover, Egypt has also turned away Palestinian refugees seeking shelter in the country, a decision steeped in the complexities of regional politics and national security concerns. The refugee crisis is a ticking time bomb, and managing it is a delicate balancing act for all regional actors. But Egypt's role isn't just about maintaining stability at home. Egypt, like many other Middle Eastern countries, is concerned about the ripple effects of the conflict. Chaos in Palestine could easily spread, sparking unrest and instability in other parts of the region. It's a domino effect that no country in the region wants to see. And it's not just about what these regional actors do, but also about what they don't do. Silence or inaction is as much a part of the geopolitical dynamics as any active engagement. Each country, each decision, each move or lack thereof is a piece of a puzzle that shapes the future of the Gaza Strip. So, as we look at the ongoing crisis in Gaza, it's crucial to remember that this isn't just about two nations locked in conflict. It's about a region with its intricate web of relationships, interests, and fears, all playing out on a grand geopolitical stage. The regional actors, each with their interests and fears, play a significant role in shaping the future of Gaza. Has America's stance on the conflict been helpful or harmful? The United States, with its long-standing affinity with Israel, has often found itself in the center of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. While some have praised America's unwavering support for Israel, others have criticized it, arguing that this unconditional backing has emboldened Israel, even when its actions have been questionable. The United States' role as a mediator in the peace process has also come under scrutiny. Critics argue that America's close relationship with Israel may bias its approach, rendering it less effective as a neutral party in negotiations. This perceived partiality has led to questions about the United States' credibility in facilitating a fair and balanced resolution to the conflict. Despite these criticisms, it's important to note that the United States has made significant diplomatic efforts to foster peace in the region. America's involvement has not been solely military or political. It has also included various diplomatic initiatives, such as the Camp David Accords in the late 20th century, which brought about a historic peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. In more recent times, the United States has also played a crucial role in brokering ceasefire agreements during periods of intense conflict. These efforts, while not always successful, are indicative of a commitment to finding a negotiated solution to the conflict. However, the effectiveness of these diplomatic efforts is a topic of debate. Some argue that while these initiatives may have brought temporary respite, they have not addressed the root causes of the conflict, thus perpetuating a cycle of violence and turmoil. The United States' role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is complex and multifaceted. It has been both a staunch ally to Israel and a mediator in peace negotiations. This dual role has led to both applause and criticism, reflecting the complexities of the conflict itself. The role of the United States in the conflict remains a contentious topic, both in the region and globally. What other tensions in the region could influence the conflict? That's a question we must grapple with when considering the broader picture of the Middle East. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict isn't the only game in town. There are other simmering disputes that could at any moment boil over and add another layer of complexity to an already tangled web. Take, for example, the ongoing tensions between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. This is a conflict that has seen periods of intense violence and uneasy calm over the years. The threat of escalation is always present, and any significant flare-up could have far-reaching implications for the region. Hezbollah, backed by Iran, poses a serious challenge to Israel's northern border. The group's arsenal of rockets and missiles, coupled with its ideological enmity towards Israel, makes it a potent adversary. If this conflict were to escalate, it would not only draw Lebanon into the fray, but could also potentially involve Iran, further inflaming regional tensions. Moreover, the Israel-Hezbollah conflict isn't just about these two actors. It's part of a larger power play involving other regional heavyweights. Saudi Arabia and Iran, for instance, have long been locked in a proxy war of influence, and their interests often intersect with the Israel-Palestine issue. Another factor to consider is the role of non-state actors. Groups like ISIS, though significantly weakened, still pose a threat. Their ability to exploit the chaos and instability that often accompany conflict could lead to an even more volatile situation. These factors, among others, underscore the complexity of the Middle East geopolitical landscape. They remind us that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of a larger, interconnected network of disputes that can, and often do, influence one another. So, as we continue to monitor the situation in Gaza, we must always keep an eye on the broader regional dynamics. The Gaza crisis doesn't exist in isolation. Other regional conflicts threaten to exacerbate an already volatile situation. What are the prospects for peace and stability in Gaza? As we delve into the final chapter of our discourse, this question echoes through the corridors of international politics, reverberating across borders and oceans. The path forward for Gaza is a complex one, riddled with potential pitfalls and obstacles, yet also filled with glimmers of hope. Firstly, let's explore the potential for a negotiated solution. The international community, led by the United Nations, has repeatedly called for a two-state solution, with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace. However, the road to this solution is paved with difficulties, not least the contentious issue of land division and the right of return for Palestinian refugees. In addition to this, there is the political divide within Palestine itself. The Gaza Strip is currently governed by Hamas, a group that the international community largely regards as a terrorist organization. This makes negotiations even more complex, as it brings into question who would represent the Palestinian side in any potential peace talks. Then there's the question of the role of other regional actors. Countries like Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia have a vested interest in maintaining regional stability and could play a significant role in facilitating peace talks. Yet their own internal politics and alliances could also add another layer of complexity to the negotiations. Lastly, there is the role of the United States. As a long-standing ally of Israel, the U.S. has considerable influence over the Israeli government. However, its perceived bias towards Israel has often been a sticking point in negotiations. The U.S. will need to balance its support for Israel with its role as a mediator if it is to help broker a lasting peace. So, as we stand at the crossroads of history, the path forward for Gaza is far from clear. The obstacles are numerous, the challenges daunting, yet the glimmers of hope persist. They lie in diplomatic efforts, in international pressure, and most importantly, in the resilience of the people of Gaza themselves. While the path to peace remains fraught with challenges, the need for a resolution has never been more urgent.